Hi, Vasu.
Hi, Pavlina. How are you?
I am doing great. How are you doing?
Good, actually. Good these days.
Well, it's wonderful to see you again and have this opportunity to create this dialogue for our friends with you ahead of the workshop that's coming up. And for our friends who, just as a brief reminder, we have a workshop coming up with Vasu, The Birth of the Tantric Woman, um, on November 29th through December 1st. So excited to get our friends to hear directly from you. Some of them have signed up, some of them are still thinking about it. So the thought here was that, of course, I've done a couple different workshops with you, and they've been fantastic. I would highly recommend our friends to join this workshop. But I really feel like for them to hear directly, it's going to be a great thing for them to hear your perspective. And with that said, I'd like to maybe just invite you, Vasu, first to tell all of us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I grew up in Africa, and I was exposed to indigenous cultures, and I had a deep feeling from growing up about how beautiful the women were, how authentic, how grounded, how loving, how in tune they were. And even though it was colonial times and there was the bosses and the non-bosses, these women had a sense of self that and a sense of naturalness in their bodies, with nature, with really unconditional love that I just was so impressed with and affected by. In my 20s, I went to India. I was actually studying psychology, and somehow I was exposed to Osho's meditations and found myself going to India at probably one of the most beautiful times, the very early years, and was exposed to meditation. And I think understanding meditation gave a whole new way of looking at being a woman, living in a woman's body, understanding what the deeper aspects of the feminine and being a woman were, and how to be empowered, because the whole phase around that period of time was about opening.
Absolutely.
Opening and finding out about your core energy and letting go of your conditioning. And in such a simple way, conditioning meant the unconscious mind and repression. And what I understood is that most of us growing up in those cultures had been taught that what a woman should be, that a woman wasn't really to develop herself. Her main role was not her intellect or her spiritual development or her freedom or her independence. It was really to be a wife, a mother, a homemaker, and to support the man.
Yeah.
And it never felt right to me. I never felt I would ever be happy in that. So I had a natural independence. And I saw, and also through my questions to Osho, because I was always interested in what is really a relationship. What is an unconscious relationship where all kinds of abuse happens and all kinds of submitting yourself to other people and pleasing other people, what we now call codependency. I really had a vision. There is another way to do this. But I didn't know what that was. And Osho gave me a very beautiful answer. He said, it's not dependent, it's not independent, it's interdependent.
And
And interdependent is too mature, in some ways realized people who inhabit their own space, physically, mentally, and spiritually, don't lean into each other, but through the fullness of their being, reach out and create a beautiful connection. And I had never seen that, but I always knew somehow that's possible. And women had a lot of healing work to do, because we women have been taught to adapt, to adjust, to please, and always to make sure other people's needs are honored. And also we were told that we don't have a right to a spiritual life, that women, you're in a woman's body, you're not going to have the right to be enlightened. You can
Yeah.
hardly vote. You don't have spiritual powers. And I rebelled against that. And I discovered through meditation and through being in this environment that that was simply not true. And I was allowed to develop myself, my intelligence, my intellect, my emotional maturity, my spiritual dimensions in ways that I would never have imagined. And then, early years, we started to work with Tantra. In that days, Tantra really did refer to sexual energy. Of course, it's so much more. So when I say a tantric woman, you could almost leave out the word tantric. A woman is tantric. That's her nature. It's not she's this poor, impoverished, weak thing, and then you add tantra to the mix. No, you take away the conditioning, and there you have a goddess, a
Wow.
woman who is deeply complete. That's what it means for me. It's
That's
not fancy. I'm not going to teach. There are many people who teach marvelous meditations. That's not my path. My path is about presence, about authenticity, about heartfulness, about truthfulness. That's what and I think in that everything opens, everything flowers, and there's a natural evolution.